congratulations on your
Thank you.
finalist at She Shapes AI. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. And when I did the application, I never actually thought that I might get nominated. I said I'll do it because, like, being with my startup for almost 2 years, it's like I do different applications and then it's like, oh, maybe next time. And that was my expectations probably for that. And well, I'm definitely positively surprised and honored.
Welcome to Work is Weird Now podcast, and this is the first episode in our She Shapes AI Awards series. We're speaking to the finalists in the Future of Work category on the run-up to their awards event in London in April, where they'll find out who the winner is. So our guest today is Barbara. I've practiced her last name several times and I'm failing, so I'm going to let her say her last name.
Stolorz.
Stolorz, co-founder of Levely AI, which is a Warsaw-based startup using artificial intelligence to help companies close their gender pay gap, just as the EU is about to make that a legal requirement. So we're going to focus on a core question today for this episode. Can AI make pay fairer? So welcome, Barbara. Congratulations. And it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. And to answer your question, to make pay fair, you actually don't need AI.
Right. That's true. But I assume that you would say that it would help.
Yeah, is everyone listening out there?
We do use AI to explain the data, right? But in the back end, it's basically mathematics, nothing else. And very simple. And I think the component that's missing to make the pay fair is the awareness of the companies that actually do the compensation policies, right?
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, before we dive too much into the product, why don't we go back to the moment when you decided to build Levely AI? So what actually happened and what motivated you to do that?
So when we started, the idea was a bit different, to be honest, because we thought about actually having a tool, a chat, where everyone can ask about like how much compensation I'm entitled or I should make based on my role, location, experience, etc. And especially that for the last 15 years, I have been working with for tech companies. And for example, in Poland, the tech salaries are fairly transparent, but still when you, for example, check the data on, job applications, quite often the compensation bands are quite wide, right? And you actually never know if you get like 10 or 20, and that's quite a big difference. So we started with that, but in the meantime, we saw lots of movement toward the pay equity, and of course I'm a female, my co-founder is female, and we definitely know how the pay, and especially also within the IT environment. When I started a long time ago, I know my salary was definitely not equal to my colleague's salary, even though we had the same skill set, experience, etc. So we figured, oh, nice. Let's try it. Let's deep dive and let's try to explore on that. And this is actually the product that we built. Yeah.
Okay. And was there am I right in saying there was a kind of personal moment too that you had in terms of coming back after maternity leave?
Yes, definitely. I actually have 2 children. And being for a longer time within the same company, my salary increase was definitely skipped because I was out taking care of my kids, even though the inflation rate did not skip, right? So I think if I was not performing at work because I was so out, like I agree, kinda, or I can at least try to agree with that, but still, even having the small increase because the market situation is changing and kind of as well as benefit for me wanting to stay at that company and keep working would be nice, but I definitely was not
so they actually didn't
way.
It wasn't just they didn't accommodate a pay rise for your skill, but actually they ignored the inflation increase as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
like
wild.
Nothing. Yeah. It was kind of given. I'm not at work, so I'm not entitled to anything, right? Even though, like, I
The
was still
exact same's happened to
employed.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just skipping inflation. You're like, well, everything else is getting more expensive. I still work here, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started Levelly in response to this challenge. And
Yeah.
can you describe to us kind of how it works and what it does?
Okay, it's very simple actually.
Good, because if it was too technical, I think it would probably go over our heads. So yeah, keep it simple.
No, it's very simple because on the back end, or it's I would say simple or fairly simple mathematics that calculates the salary differences in between men and female, but also including, I don't know, we also offer to have this calculation based on different criteria as well, not necessarily gender.
Okay.
What it's different that instead of actually trying to calculate that manually and adding different composition of bonuses and everything that is titled to money, we have algorithm for it, and it does it in a couple of seconds, not like, I don't know, couple of hours, days, depending on the skill set of the person actually doing the calculation. We also know that HR teams are not maybe also an experts in Excel, or not all of them, and compiling the data, and also they don't have to be because they have different skill set needed for the role. So this is the second component, the AI. Besides like doing the calculation and doing it really fast, we embedded the AI that explains in the simple language what actually those different graphs means and what should be the next steps in terms of reducing or implementing different policies to reduce the pay gaps, as well as showing the key areas that need the adjustments and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that the reason why this pay gap exists is because most people were very willing to ignore what was obviously a big discrepancy. But due to the EU legislation that is coming up, that's about to change and they have to be a lot more transparent. Is that right?
Yes, so there's two components. First, when a company is looking for a new talent, they have to or inform the talent about the salary, not the other way around, asking like how much salary you're expecting to make, or publish it within the JD. As I said, for in Poland, for example, for tech roles, quite often the salary is included, but quite often also with a big
A big gap.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
like 10 from 10 to 20. Like, okay,
Right.
so it's 10, 20, or 15.
Yeah. I mean, we've
So
all
that's-
sort of seen that, right? When
Yeah.
they position a role that's sort of like 30 to 70 or something, it's
Yeah,
like where
so
it's almost meaningless, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then there's like the job transparency versus actually companies publishing information about their salary gaps, and employees having a right to be informed how much they can make on the same level compared to the colleagues, right? Which is a bit tricky because if you have, I don't know, two people on the same level, then
Yeah.
and you ask, you kind of know. So there's like a bit of data privacy and things like that, but definitely interesting times. And I did work for companies that were not super transparent with their employees. And I also worked for the companies that had maybe not necessarily like Barbara is making that much, but people for, I don't know, project manager on that level are entitled to the salary in between the ranges, and the ranges were reasonable. So you kind of also could figure out, or at least have a conversation with your manager, hey, what I have to do to get to that next step, or be entitled to have a higher salary, for example. And I think lots of companies are scared of that change. And I think they should not, because first of all, those cigarette breaks conversations with your colleagues when you ask about, when you talk about salaries and stuff, those kind of will end, because no one will have to ask, or at least like trying to figure out, is this person is making more or less than I do, but it's, I don't know, I have more or less responsibilities. You can just like have information ready for you that you can ask, and you can have this conversation with your manager. I think this is definitely a big change and needed.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the EU law goes into effect when? Is that next year?
European countries have to implement local laws by mid this year, but the
Okay.
first publication and calculation of the gap has to be published on in June 2027.
Okay. And
Okay.
what would you say is how many companies are doing that now? And then how many, what's the gap between the ones who are already complying with that and the ones who got quite a lot of work to do to get to that point?
That's a good question. And I think, for example, the companies that do already report ESG, right, and thinking about competing for big contracts, etc., they do have to report a bit of information about the salary gap. This is very basic because it's just the percentage in between males and females. So, so this is like a raw salary gap versus what they will have to do according to the pay transparency. It's a bit more complex and in detailed. So I would say maybe 10-13% of the companies kind of know where they're at, and the
Okay.
rest, especially the big ones, are prepping now because like having a salary gap for of 18-20% for a big corporation that is hiring, I don't know, 50,000 people, and you're thinking about salary increases to kind of try to I don't know, minimize it with a quick fix, then you have to have quite a large budget to be able to
Yeah.
fill all that money, right?
Yeah.
Have there ever been any companies that have really taken you by surprise about the size of their gender pay gap?
No, we tend to find out that usually when we do the first calculation of the raw gap, so just comparing men and women, so it's usually in between 20-28%, which is fairly standard. It's more like how those the same apples are compared to the apples in terms of the skill sets, for example, and so it's different. Sometimes it's around 5%, which is good. Sometimes it's 10%, which is also good as long as you can explain it. And we had companies that had over 13%, for example, or 29 for the high level, because it's just usually men up on top.
Male dominated on the boards. Yeah. Executive
Yeah.
boards tend to be
Exactly.
male dominated, right? Yeah.
So I think we're not really surprised by the data that we see. The first company that we ever did, like that actually they paid us commercial. We did the calculation, and the company definitely had a gap, and it was not the one that you can easily explain. And we had a conversation, or had a meeting, like a formal meeting, to show our findings in front of the board, and we're showing the the dashboards, and we prepped for quite some time for it. And the board is like, yeah, but we don't have a gap. It's like, but we're just showing.
Yeah.
So that was definitely interesting experience.
Yeah.
And
Well, the data says. The data
yeah,
says.
yeah. So like we talked a bit, and it was pointless to have this conversation because obviously we were on the totally opposite ends of the data that we saw, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is obviously the data side, as you said, and then there's also this AI layer, which provides lots
Yeah.
of insights and things like that. So what are
Yeah.
you finding so far as the most valuable insight that the AI is able to provide on top of the kind of basic reporting?
Um, okay, so first one, especially for the companies with large headcount, AI, like handpicking the individuals that you have to look into, um, um, more specific. This is helpful because otherwise you don't have to scroll or try to figure out on yourself where the problem lays. So this is the first one, that it's like AI is handpicking the the problems for you. and then the overall explaining, including executive summary, what the report is about, is definitely helpful. And what we're thinking about now, or what we put on a roadmap, is also having like a data assistant or AI data assistant helping HR teams to understand what kind of data they have to provide, what should be included and what not, from where to take it from, and how to embed it to our software, for example, because we know that the data is still very fragmented and quite often not within the one place where company can just fetch it and, for example, fetch it to our tool. So
And you mentioned you're not just looking at gender. So what are some of the other areas that you're looking at across the workforce?
we checked nationality, but this like in Poland the diversity is not very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say. So it was a bit easier for nationality because like during the war in Ukraine, we do have lots of people from Ukraine, and then the company had people with coming from Ukraine, so we calculate the gap there. It was not that much of a difference, and we did also calculate the disability. So this you could see that the gap was a bit higher, even
Yeah.
though, for example, people in Poland with disability get more PTOs, vacations, and when we calculate the gap, we do also include the PTO days, because this also can affect positive or negative the gap in between the layers. So even if the person had, for example, 30 days, not 15, it still was making less money, which I think it's, even though other components or criteria were met on the same level to other person without the disabilities, right? So, yeah.
Cool.
Mm.
So you are a woman who obviously experienced some of this workplace discrimination. Do you think that a man would have built a product like this? Are there
No.
similar products out there
Well,
built by men?
okay. I have my first reaction was like, no, why? And
Yeah.
and it's also because when we started and when the information about the pay transparency was not so so public yet, because now it's outside. You can definitely see the movement in media and social media, etc. But last year, like, no one knew what it is, right? What it means, and it's like in 2-3 years, like whatever. And when we were pitching the idea, I actually got a question from it was one of the contests, and of course most of the jury was men and
Yeah.
one female, and she did not ask the question. And I got first question was like, what's the pay gap? Like, what it is it? If I have a daughter, is it means that she won't be making the same money as like my colleague? Like, on the 98% chance that yes.
Yeah.
Like, but it was totally foreign concept for them, and they totally did not understand. And the second, like, why someone would like to measure it, like, it was very hard to explain it when, and you can imagine that we did not make any place in that
Yeah.
that contest. It's changing. We're definitely starting to get recognition, but
I mean, you could have taken the software and stuck it into that jury panel,
yeah.
sort of then figured out where the power was concentrated.
Yeah.
So you have ambitions, I think, to go beyond Poland, beyond the EU.
Definitely.
Where do you see the biggest need being worldwide? And how different will it be, actually? How do you expect it to be received in different ways, depending on which geography you're working in?
That's actually an excellent question. We're definitely thinking about expanding, expanding farther. Scandinavia is amazing example where things like that can be tracked and actually embedded to the day-to-day of the corporate environment, let's say. But I think the most problematic will be in the countries more like towards the Balkans, maybe a bit of Spain and Italy. Um,
And that's more
You
problematic because the data doesn't exist in the first place. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
it's yes, and second, like the more I don't want to sound prejudice. Like the countries where you see that not that many women are within the workforce,
Mm,
and especially I don't know for the industries that are purely male dominated, then of course the gap will be bigger and it will
mm,
be harder to track and harder to prove that it even makes sense to calculate that. But
mm,
even in Poland, even in UK, even in Germany, there, I don't know, in the hospitals, there are usually female nurse, not men nurse, right? So there are still some industries where are one gender or another dominated. But we also can calculate, for example, how it would be if it would be actually mixed.
mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're actually
Yeah.
accommodating for that change, right? You're not
Yeah.
sort of taking the basic number that says that there are
Yeah.
2 people working in construction who are women,
Yeah.
and then kind
Yeah.
of calculating that and relating it to an industry where women are rife
Yeah.
within the profession. So yeah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
If there's somebody listening to this thinking, I could really use a tool like this, what would I need to start and get going? Could you explain that for somebody who's kind of figuring it out?
Okay, just send us an email and we'll help with that. Well, for now we're working purely on Polish market because we're based here and this is the market that we know the best. The small steps or finger at the door we have for the UK, and this is also, or this was one of the reasons why I also applied for the award, to kind of show what we're doing. And also UK is mature enough that you're already doing it in
Yeah.
terms of calculating the gap. You have the legislations for it, and also we know what are the problems. Mm, So in terms of like individual who'd like to know if her salary or his salary is let's say equally distributed, if this person has a bit more data, then we can also calculate that. We'll be releasing like a website where you can actually add or put your information and the information you think from the opposite when we'll try to calculate it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it
Yeah.
sounds like it's really developing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So just zooming out then into the broader topic around AI, what excites you most about the potential of AI to solve some of these problems in the workplace?
Well, as a IT professional and working with AI for last couple of years, mostly for big corporations that would like to implement or automate processes, I think it's quite exciting in terms of the possibility and in terms of the things that you have to do manually. And I think for the future of workplace, the big one is definitely like reviewing resumes, CVs. I'm not sure how good AIs are because there's also the topic of AI being biased
Hmm.
because most of the data or the old data were more male focused, not female focused. And I think I also read a study that when AI have seen a couple of resumes without the names or with the names, they picked the men one because as the baseline, the men one was the either the perfect description or perfect career steps of the success.
Hmm.
But I think definitely AI in recruitment, trying to help out and faster the process. For the core HR, definitely data analytics. But as I said, it's more mathematic, but also explaining the analytics. I like this component and also having human in a loop, kind of like showing or working like AI working alongside the people that actually make decision, just helping them out, understanding it faster, analyzing it faster. I like this one in particular, and also helping out with the day to days. Even thinking about a company that has I don't know 500 employees, and with the pay transparency, suddenly does those those 500 employees would like to know what's the gap on their level and what are the salaries. Those are at least like 500 questions that HRBP will get and will have to reply very fast to it. And I think this is also like the AI the AI benefit that companies can leverage, right?
What does the AI industry look like for women, at the moment and going into the rest of 2026?
I think like I definitely see a very positive trend of women showing their capabilities and learning AI, and also the jobs that are not very IT focused, for example, including HR or operations. Because you can with the simple skill set you can by yourself build an agent that will be replying to your emails, etc. And I do like that trend, seeing it happening on LinkedIn, also within my professional environment. And of course, from the startup point of view, there's lots of startups or AI startups, and to be invested in, you have to have AI component. But I would say business is still male dominated a bit more than female. And I'm really looking for that trend to be opposite sooner than later. And it's happening, it's happening. In Warsaw is a good example. Berlin is a good example. I know a lot of amazing female founders that are definitely fighting their way through. And maybe with accessibility of AI, different tools for us, for women, it will be now faster to actually learn it. And I'm very optimistic in terms of that. And with the lots of materials being for free or accessible for free, this is also quite nice that if you just want to, you can learn it. And definitely you should not be afraid of it, because it's like helping or saving your time. And I think my time is more valuable.
Valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And like, do you use AI? Do you help out with the chat and like?
Yes, I use it loads, like very
The
much
same.
as a part of my everyday life.
The same.
Yeah, I could use it more. I need to. It reminds me of the quote from Yaroslav Dokuhil, who was one of our season 3 guests, I think. And he just said everybody should use it for 15 minutes a day to just play around with it. Try and do something new, just 15 minutes every day. Try something new, try and break it, try and do something you normally do in your day to day, and try it with an AI tool and see where you go.
I also use it tons, and I think lots of applications and articles would be very hard for me if it's not with help of the help of AI.
Yeah. I think obviously what you're talking about here is very much around women getting accustomed to the tools and starting to build things and that sort of thing from the ground up. But obviously we also have the power in this sort of broader AI systems, very much concentrated around groups of men, largely kind of billionaire men.
Yes.
And I just am curious for your take on what would the world of AI be looking like right now if we'd had women in the room from the start, if they were in some of those centers of control. What do you think? How do you think it would have been shaped differently, or how do you think it would be emerging differently?
Well, first of all, it would be more inclusive. I think the security or data security of AI, or in general, the Security Act of AI would definitely happened a bit faster than it did. The perceiving AI and the data behind it, that it's not necessarily equal, that probably would also happen a bit earlier. What else would be changed? It would be more successful AI companies that women are running. And maybe also a bit more initiatives like the She Shapes AI, for example, because I think there's still not enough that women can participate or even find out about it. I think this is still missing the collaborative effort of support. Yeah.
So what did it mean to you to be shortlisted for the award?
That's definitely a great honor, especially seeing within my group to another amazing female founders what they did and what they achieved, and so then it's like nice job.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely looking forward to workshops and like meeting those women and learning from them, because overall for me all those contests, applications, accelerators are important as long as I can learn and like have something in general, as long as I can learn something new, right? Or at least network and see or learn new perspective. And I think I'm really looking forward to this one because it's been a while since I've been in the same room with so many amazing females.
I love that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Well, we will look forward to seeing you there because we will be there
Yes.
in April. So
We will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm bringing my co-founder with the double last name.
Oh, great. Okay.
We'll get practicing. We'll get
Yeah,
practicing.
I've got about a month to sort that out.
Yeah.
Actually, you should say it now because then I can start practicing. How do you pronounce her name?
Katarzyna Prokopczyk-Gapińska or
Okay.
Gapińska-Prokopczyk. Yeah.
I'm glad
Okay,
we'll have
we
to,
can listen
Alice,
to
we'll
more.
get that clipped and just play it
Yeah.
over and over.
It's for short is Kasia and my name for short is Basia. It's Barbara.
Okay,
Basia,
Kasia and Basha. I love it.
Love
Exactly.
it.
It's like Polish standard. Kasia, Basia,
Yeah.
and Asia, which is Joanna. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, if anyone wants to find out more about you or about Lovely, what's the best place for them to look?
I think the best one will be finding me on LinkedIn. Our landing page is actually in the works and it should be ready for April. But it's so LinkedIn first or directly via my email. It's barbara@levely.ai, and I'm happy to connect. Yeah.
Okay, great. And just one more thing on pay, too. I think one of the things that's been true about, there's obviously a sort of transparency element that comes from organizations, but also historically, I don't think we've been very willing to, from a social perspective, discuss pay very openly. You know, you mentioned the sort of cigarette break moment, but by and large, we consider that, well, at least we used to consider it, you know, falling into the same category as sort of politics and religion, and we just don't discuss it, right? So what would you like to see from the kind of analog perspective around our relationship with pay and pay transparency?
There's also one more thing. When you say like when a female is going to talk about salary with her manager, boss, whatever, she's going to kindly ask if may I have a salary increase. When I'm thinking about the man, I'm going to ask the man to get salary increase because I deserve it. So this is, I think, the main one, right? Like we do deserve it as well, and we should not kindly may I have. It's like I deserve it, please give it to me. And if not, what are the objective reasons why not?
Yeah.
And so this is one thing. And second, it's about time that actually companies do offer the frameworks where you don't have to have those quiet, shameful conversations about your salary with your colleagues, that you have like a source of information and you can check it, right?
Yeah, fantastic. So hopefully with the combination of a slight social shift and the AI layer on top, then we will hopefully have a much more transparent conversation about pay.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Barbara. It's been great to have you here, and we look forward to seeing you in April.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and see you in April. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.